What's going on, Broncos country? Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here with some free agent targets for the Broncos with Sean Payton in mind, right? Now that Denver's got their new head coach, which free agents will Sean Payton want to pursue? Because we know he can be an active head coach and maybe pop into the GM's office from time to time. Quick PSA, today's show was filmed during our live show on February 21st. So if anything changes with any of the names we see on screen, just bear with us. Wanted to get a video out before I took off on a week-long trip to London. But in my opinion, the Broncos' 5 biggest needs is offensive line, right tackle, offensive tackle, linebacker, and running back. Are you noticing a trend? They have to shore up the offensive line. They cannot do what they did last year, which was roll with Billy Turner after a failed physical got him released for Green Bay and just sort of banked and hoped for him being ready come week 1. And what was their contingency plan if he wasn't? Let's sign Tom Compton, also an injured offensive lineman. They got to go out and sign a no-doubter, and if that costs big money, so be it. But they need, for once in a long time, a legit right tackle. So my offensive line targets: Orlando Brown, Mike McGlinchey, Andre Dillard, Isaiah Wynn, and Kaleb McGary. Now, Orlando Brown and McGary are both prime franchise tag candidates, and maybe by the time you're watching this, they've already been tagged, so if so, disregard. But Mike McGlinchey, Andre Dillard, and Isaiah Wynn, those guys right there are 3, different spectrums of types of players, or level of talent you could sign. McGlinchey is a bona fide awesome tackle. Andre Dillard, we'll look at later on, is an interesting case. And Isaiah Wynn, former first-round pick who is okay, just never lived up to the potential. Now, Pro Football Focus's rankings for this offensive tackle group right here in 2022, McGary was the best of the bunch. He was the 4th best tackle in football last year per PFF. Orlando Brown and Mike McGlinchey, not far behind at 18 and 26. Andre Dillard did not qualify. Why? He was a former first-round pick for the Eagles, but they've got some other good guys named Lane Johnson who kind of pushed him out of a starting role. And then there's Isaiah Wynn, who you can see why the Patriots are looking to move on from him. If Denver, for whatever reason, can't land Brown or McGary because they get tagged, McGlinchey goes elsewhere, then they're looking at Dillard or Wynn, and at least Wynn's got some starting experience, but I'd still probably lean towards Andre Dillard. Now, what could these guys run a bill for? Contract projections, I think Orlando Brown's going to be right there with Trent Williams for highest paid tackles in football. 5-year, $22 million a season. Mike McGlinchey's a bit older, so he might be a bit cheaper. 4 years, $17 million. Dillard, I have him for 3 years, $10 million a season. Former first-round pick, that's good. He just never got a chance to start because of Mailata and Lane Johnson being their starting tackles in Philadelphia. And so he's always been the 6th man that could start most places, just not on the Eagles. Isaiah Wynn, maybe 3-year, $12 million. That might be a bit of an overpay. And I think Kaleb McGary is going to get about 4 years, $16 million. Awesome 2022 season. He wasn't really that good his first 3 years, so teams might be a little bit hesitant to overreact to one really strong season. For my pick, I would go with Mike McGlinchey. I don't think he'd absolutely break the bank like Orlando Brown, even though I'd still like Orlando Brown, bring some secrets over from Kansas City. I think Mike McGlinchey is still just as good right there, but wouldn't cost you quite as much. I also think the 49ers are probably going to let him walk. Why? Because they got a lot of other mouths to feed. They still are not on the hook for a big quarterback contract, but they've also got guys like Deebo Samuel, and they got Brandon Ayuk coming up soon, Christian McCaffrey, plus that entire defense. McGlinchey might be a bit of a casualty who they'd like to keep, but ultimately they just can't afford to pay everyone. Now, today's show is sponsored by Cultivate, the free browser extension that brings transparency to your Amazon shopping experience. Cultivate shows you the brand, seller, or product origin and identifies local alternatives that support local community efforts while saving you money. With over 50% of Amazon U.S. sellers based in China, Cultivate offers a way to avoid trickery from those sellers and keep money in the U.S. economy. Cultivate offers alternatives that are on average 30% less expensive than Amazon without any additional costs such as Amazon Prime. It can even identify local alternatives that you can pick up the same day. Cultivate users earn free donations as rewards for using the extension, and the more you use it, the more you earn in donations by increasing your level. In fact, Cultivate donates 51% of the revenue they make on your purchase. So what are you waiting for? Go to wecultivate.us/chatsports and download Cultivate for free. Let Cultivate bring transparency, savings, and community support to your Amazon shopping journey. Support the show and download it with our link. It's wecultivate.us/chatsports. I've got that link for everyone in the comments and the description of today's show. Moving on to the next position of need for the Broncos. After offensive line, which is 1, 2, and 3 in my book, I think linebacker is not too far behind. And I've got 5 free agent targets here. Alex Singleton, I would love for him to find a way to come back. He was awesome last year. And he probably watched a lot of our videos from the summer where I was very concerned about Drue and Singleton really being the only linebackers with Griffith there. And he made me eat my words. He was one of the best linebackers in football. Drue Tranquill, another guy to watch for, could come over from the Chargers. Rashaan Evans for the Falcons. He quietly tallied a lot of tackles last year, and he could hold down the fort for a season or two. Morrow was with the Bears last year. There was nothing good about the Bears outside of Fields, but Morrow quietly put together a strong season, in my opinion. And then there's Leighton Vander, who's a roller coaster. He's healthy, he's unhealthy. He's great, he's down at the bottom. He's leading the NFL in tackles. He can't get onto the field. How did PFF rank these 5 guys last year? Singleton was top 10 right there, 10 out of 81. Tranquill not far behind at 36. Evans at 52. Morrow at 64. And Leighton Vander Esch was 23. Why not run it back with Alex Singleton? I know that during the Super Bowl, he was asked about whether or not he'd want to come back to the Broncos, and he was definitely game for it. The only downside is he'll be 30 come week 1. He's not going to be most likely a long-term piece for you, so if you wanted to try and find a linebacker for the future, but also that's not really George Payton's MO. He doesn't value that inside linebacker position all that highly. He is looking to kind of go by the skin of his teeth and look for cheaper deals, which he got with a 2-year, $11.5 million contract for Drue and a 1-year contract for Singleton. But with the way Drue and Singleton played last year, does anyone have any issue with him coming back and just running it with those two once again? Hey, before we get on to the rest of today's show, subscribe right now for the best Broncos free agency coverage. Anytime news or rumors breaks, we're going to have you guys in the loop, and that way you don't miss a thing on your favorite team. To tee up the next free agent target position group, unfortunately, we have to remember what happened to Jamaal Williams and that really bad knee injury he sustained last year, week 4 on October 2nd against the Raiders. And I want to keep that date fresh in your memory because it's not a run-of-the-mill ACL injury. It was a damaged LCL along with many other things. And it wasn't quite the same, but it was kind of reminding me of Saquon Barkley last year. Remember when Barkley tore his ACL early in 2020, earlier than Jamaal Williams got hurt? Well, the next season, 2021, he was a shell of himself. 593 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was never really able to get healthy. In 2022, last year, he was a top 5 running back in football. What I want to make right now, the point is that Jamaal Williams is not going to be 100% next year. This is a long recovery. It was a major knee injury. So the Broncos have to be prepared to have another running back for most and potentially all of 2023. So who are those free agent targets? What about Latavius Murray? Right? Latavius Murray was awesome last year. He was probably the only good thing on offense for a stretch. There's Tony Pollard. I think the Cowboys are going to find a way to bring him back. At the very least, they're going to franchise tag him most likely. Jamaal Williams quietly scored on literally every play last year. He was a touchdown machine. There's James Robinson, who had a really good season and a half with the Jags, traded to the Jets, and then the Jets never used him. Alexander Mattison, him and George Payton, I believe. Mattison was a part of George Payton's time in Minnesota, so he might want to bring him over to Denver. kind of like he did with Mike Boone. But what about Latavius Murray? Let's kind of break these down one by one here. Latavius Murray, in my opinion, is a bit of an older guy. Well, that's not my opinion. But Latavius Murray, though, 760 yards and 6 touchdowns last year as an older running back that was just a practice squad guy for the Saints when Denver found him. Could you squeeze one more year juice out of him to buy you time for Javonte Williams' return, a full return, hopefully, in 2024? Not opposed. So be the GM. Should the Broncos bring back Latavius Murray? Y for yes, N for no. I'm in. Why not? Right? Not going to cost you much. He was solid last year. Sure, you run the risk of him having a big fall-off, drop-off season, but I don't want to see this team pay too much at running back. Some other running backs to look at here. Like I said, Jamaal Williams, 17 touchdowns. As a backup running back, Jamaal Williams could be a bit of a low-key gem. He's not going to garnish a ton of attention in free agency, but 17 touchdowns and 1,000 yards as RB1/RB2, what's not to love? Then there's Alexander Mattison, who has never really caught on in Minnesota. They have Dalvin Cook, so they never asked too much out of him, but he could be a more lower-level signing if they don't want to run it back with Murray and they can't land someone else. And George Payton, I'm pretty sure, was there when he was drafted back in 2020 for the Vikings. Some other free agent targets we didn't mention. Cameron Sutton from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's going to be a hot topic name during free agency. He really had a breakout year in a contract season. If they are adamant about maybe moving on from Ronald Darby and they're not quite ready to turn CB2 over to Damari Mathis, Sutton could be a name to watch for. I don't think it's a complete 100% guarantee that Dalton Risner leaves in free agency. Definitely feels a bit unlikely. But what if Risner gets to free agency because they're not going to franchise tag him and he doesn't get the phone calls he's expecting? Maybe he wants to come back and run it for another 2 or 3 seasons in Denver. And I got 3 players from the Saints that were with Sean Payton. Shy Tuttle, former UDFA, starting defensive tackle for New Orleans. I just want to see the Broncos get better in the trenches. I'm guessing Mike Purcell is not brought back, so Shy Tuttle's a name to watch for. Bradley Roby, we all know too well, coming back potentially. Again, I just don't quite know what Denver wants to do at CB2. And then there's Kaden Elliss, who's sort of like a Swiss Army knife of a linebacker. He'll get down in the trenches. He'll also play in the middle of the field. I like his versatility. So give me a name, though. Who do you want the Broncos to sign? Let me know in the comment section below. We ran through 20 names right there. Let me know which player you'd like to see the Broncos go out and sign. All right, if you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so. That way you guys get the best Broncos offseason coverage all year long.